They were dismissed as a burden by their own children, mocked for inheriting a crumbling lodge in the middle of nowhere, and left to rot in what everyone called a worthless shack. But when Marlowe and Iris opened the basement vault 3 months later, what they found didn't just silence the family who abandoned them. It rewrote their entire legacy and proved that being forgotten by the world sometimes means being chosen by fate. Before we dive into the story, make sure to smash subscribe because tomorrow we have an extra special story for you that will blow your mind. The apartment smelled like burnt toast and old carpet, the kind of scent that clings to everything no matter how many windows you open. Marlowe sat at the narrow kitchen table, his 72-year-old hands wrapped around a chipped mug of coffee gone cold an hour ago. Across from him, Iris wiped down the counters for the 3rd time that morning, her 70-year-old frame moving slowly, deliberately, like someone trying to stretch 5 minutes of work into 15 just to feel useful. They'd been married 48 years. 48 years of shared dreams, folded laundry, quiet dinners, and the kind of love that didn't need to announce itself. But lately, the silence in their small 2-bedroom rental felt heavier, lonelier, like the world had forgotten they existed. And maybe it had. Their son Derek called once a month if they were lucky. Always rushed, always distracted, always with an excuse about work or the kids or traffic. Their daughter, Natalie, texted on birthdays. Short messages, no punctuation, no warmth, just happy B-day and a thumbs-up emoji. The grandchildren didn't call at all. Iris set the dish rag down and stared out the window at the parking lot below. A young mother pushed a stroller past a dumpster. A maintenance man changed a light bulb on a crooked pole. "You think they'll come for Thanksgiving this year?" she asked softly. Marlowe didn't answer right away. He stared into his mug like the answer might be floating in the cold coffee. "Maybe," he said finally, though neither of them believed it. Last Thanksgiving, they'd set the table for 8. Only 3 showed up: Derek, his wife Shauna, and their youngest, a sullen teenager who spent the entire meal on his phone. Natalie had cancelled 2 days before, something about a work trip that couldn't be rescheduled. The other grandchildren simply didn't respond to the invitation. Shauna had spent most of the dinner complaining about the drive, about the apartment's heating, about how inconvenient it was to coordinate schedules around their needs. Marlowe had bitten his tongue so hard he tasted blood. Iris had smiled through the whole meal, serving pie no one finished, pretending not to notice when Shauna whispered to Derek that they really need to talk about options for his parents. Options, like they were a problem to be solved, a burden to be managed. 2 weeks after that Thanksgiving, Derek had called with a proposal. There was a senior living facility across town, reasonable rates, activities, meals included. You'd have people your own age, he'd said, like that was supposed to be comforting. And Shauna and I wouldn't have to worry so much. What he really meant was, "You're too much work." Marlowe had declined, politely, firmly. Derek hadn't called again for 6 weeks. Now, sitting in the kitchen with toast crumbs on the table and sunlight too weak to warm anything, Marlowe felt the weight of being invisible. Not dead, not gone, just unseen. The kind of erasure that happens slowly, one missed call at a time, until you're just a name on a contact list. People scroll past without thinking. Iris turned from the window. Her eyes, still sharp and green despite the years, met his. "We're not a burden," she said quietly. Marlowe reached across the table and took her hand. Her skin was soft, thin, marked with age spots and years of washing dishes and folding other people's laundry. "I know," he said, "but some days it was hard to believe. The letter arrived on a Tuesday." Marlowe pulled it from the mailbox wedged between flyers for pizza delivery and a past-due notice from the electric company. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, with a return address from a law firm in Billings, Montana. He turned it over in his hands, frowning. "Iris," he called as he stepped inside, "we get something from a lawyer." She emerged from the bedroom, a basket of laundry on her hip. A lawyer? What did we do? Nothing, far as I know. They sat on the couch, a floral print thing they'd bought second-hand in 1998, and Marlowe carefully tore open the envelope. Inside was a letter on official letterhead, typed and formal. He read it aloud. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Albright, this letter is to inform you that you have been named as beneficiaries in the estate of Thurman Albright, deceased as of September 14th. As the closest living relative willing to accept inheritance, you are entitled to receive property located at— Marlowe stopped, his throat tightening. Iris leaned closer. Property? What property? He scanned ahead. A lodge in Montana, middle of nowhere looks like, about 300 acres. They sat in stunned silence. Thurman, Iris finally said. Your second cousin? The one you met maybe twice? Marlowe nodded slowly. Haven't heard his name in 30 years. Didn't even know he died. Why would he leave us anything? Marlowe shook his head. No idea. He kept reading. The letter explained that Thurman had passed without children, without siblings, and had named Marlowe as a distant heir. The property was described as a residential lodge, circa 1967, with outbuildings and surrounding forest land. There were instructions for claiming the inheritance, contact information for the estate attorney, and a note at the bottom in smaller print. The property is delivered as is, no guarantees regarding condition or value. Iris stared at the letter like it might vanish if she blinked. Montana, she whispered. Marlowe set the paper down on the coffee table. Neither of them moved. Finally he said, We should call Derek. Iris's face tightened, but she nodded. Derek answered on the 5th ring. Yeah? Hey, son, it's your dad. Oh, hey, what's up? I'm in a meeting. Marlowe pressed on. We got some news. Strange news, actually. You remember my cousin Thurman? Who? Thurman Albright. My dad's cousin's kid. Doesn't matter. Point is, he passed away, and he left us some property. There was a pause. Then a short, humorless laugh. Property? Like what? A timeshare? A lodge in Montana. Another pause. Longer this time. You're kidding. No. We got a letter from a lawyer. It's real. Derek sighed audibly, the kind of sigh that said he didn't have time for this. Dad, that's weird. But Montana? That's like the middle of nowhere. It's probably a shack, probably falling apart. The letter says it's 300 acres. Yeah, of nothing. Look, I'm sure it sounds exciting, but these things are always more trouble than they're worth. Old cabins, back taxes, structural issues. You guys don't need that headache. Marlowe's jaw tightened. We haven't decided what to do yet. Well, my advice, sign it over. Let someone else deal with it, or just refuse the inheritance. You're too old to be flying across the country to look at some dump. Too old. The words landed like stones. We'll think about it, Marlowe said, voice flat. Okay, cool. Listen, I really gotta go. We'll talk later. The line went dead. Iris looked at him. What did he say? He said it's probably a dump, said we should refuse it. She nodded slowly. Then, after a long moment, she said, What do you want to do? Marlowe stared at the letter on the table, at the coffee-stained couch, at the beige walls that had never felt like home. I want to see it, he said. Iris smiled faintly. So do I. The family group chat exploded within an hour. Derek must have told Shauna, who told Natalie, who told everyone else, because by dinner time, Marlowe's phone was buzzing non-stop. Most of the messages were variations on the same theme. Why would anyone leave you property? Montana? That's so random, LOL. Are you guys really thinking about going? Dad, this is a terrible idea. You can't handle a trip like that. You should let Derek handle it. Seriously, don't waste your money on flights. It's probably worthless. One message from Shauna was particularly cutting. I really think you guys need to be realistic about your limitations. This isn't the time to be making impulsive decisions. We're just worried about you." Marlowe read that one twice, then set his phone face down on the counter. Iris was standing at the stove stirring a pot of soup that would feed them for 3 days. "They don't want us to go," she said without turning around. "No," Marlowe agreed. "They think we're too old, too fragile, too much trouble." "Yeah." Iris turned off the burner and faced him. Her green eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. "I don't care what they think," she said. "I want to see the lodge." Marlowe stood, crossed the small kitchen and pulled her into his arms. "Then we're going," he said. 2 weeks later, they loaded their old sedan, a 2003 Honda Accord with a dented bumper and a passenger window that didn't roll down, and started the drive west. They didn't tell anyone they were leaving, no dramatic goodbye, no phone calls. They just locked the apartment, left a note for the landlord, and drove. The first day took them through Nebraska. Flat, endless golden fields stretching to the horizon. Iris read aloud from a paperback mystery she'd picked up at a gas station. Marlowe drove with both hands on the wheel, the way he always did, steady and careful. They stopped at a motel outside North Platte. $29 a night. The bed sagged in the middle, and the shower sputtered rust-colored water for the first minute, but it was clean enough. That night, lying side by side in the dark, Iris whispered, "Do you think it's really out there? The lodge?" "The lawyer said it was. But what if it's nothing? What if Derek was right?" Marlowe reached for her hand under the thin blanket. "Then we saw Montana," he said, "and we did something just for us." She squeezed his fingers. "I like that," she said. The second day took them into Wyoming. The landscape shifted, mountains rising in the distance, forests thickening, the sky impossibly wide and blue. They stopped for lunch at a diner in Casper, where a waitress with kind eyes called them Hun and didn't rush them when they took their time deciding. Iris ordered pancakes. Marlowe got a patty melt. They split a slice of cherry pie. It was one of the best meals they'd had in years. Not because the food was extraordinary, but because no one made them feel like they were in the way. That evening, as they crossed into Montana, the sun dipped low and turned the mountains gold. Iris rolled down her window. It still worked on her side and let the cool air rush in. "It's beautiful," she said. Marlowe nodded, eyes on the road, but something in his chest loosened. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he was moving towards something instead of just away. They reached the town of Pine Ridge the next afternoon. It wasn't much of a town. One main street, a post office, a general store, a diner that looked like it hadn't been updated since 1975. Population, 417, according to the faded sign at the edge of town. Marlowe pulled into the gravel lot of the general store and checked the directions the lawyer had sent. "Says we head north on County Road 12 for about 16 miles. Then there's a turnoff marked by a stone gate." Iris looked out at the dense forest beyond the town. 16 miles of nothing. "Looks like it." They bought bottled water, a bag of apples, and a flashlight with batteries, just in case. The man behind the counter, weathered and quiet, glanced at their license plate. "You folks lost?" "No," Marlowe said. "We're looking for a property. The Albright Lodge?" The man's eyebrows lifted slightly. "Thurman's place." "You knew him?" "Knew of him. Kept to himself. Haven't seen him come through in a couple years. Heard he passed." "He did." The man nodded slowly. "That place is way up in the hills. Road's rough. You got 4-wheel drive?" Marlowe glanced at their sedan. "No." "Well, take it slow, and if it starts getting dark, don't push it. Forest gets real dark real fast up there." "Thank you," Iris said. They left town and headed north. The paved road lasted about 3 miles before turning to gravel, then dirt. The trees closed in on both sides, towering pines that blocked the sun and turned the air cool and shadowed. Marlowe drove slowly, the car bouncing over ruts and rocks. Iris gripped the door handle but said nothing. After what felt like an hour but was probably closer to 30 minutes, They rounded a bend and saw it. 2 tall stone pillars marking a narrow driveway. No gate, just the pillars, worn and covered in moss. Carved into one of them, barely visible, were the words, Albright Lodge. Marlowe turned in. The driveway climbed upward, winding through thick forest. Branches scraped the sides of the car. The silence was absolute. No birds, no wind, just the crunch of gravel under tires. Then the trees opened up. And there it was. The lodge sat in a clearing surrounded by towering pines and distant mountains. It was larger than Marlowe had imagined. 2 stories, built from dark wood and riverstone, with a steeply pitched roof and a wide front porch. The windows were tall and narrow, some with shutters hanging crooked. The paint was faded, the porch steps sagging slightly, but the structure itself looked solid, sturdy, waiting. Marlowe stopped the car and they both stared. "My God," Iris whispered. It wasn't a shack. It wasn't falling apart. It was a real home, weathered by time but still standing, still strong. Marlowe turned off the engine. The silence rushed in. They stepped out slowly, boots crunching on the gravel. The air smelled like pine and earth, and something faintly sweet. Wildflowers, maybe, or moss. Iris walked toward the porch, her hand trailing along the wooden railing. "It's beautiful," she said softly. Marlowe followed, his heart pounding in a way that had nothing to do with the altitude. The front door was heavy, solid wood, with a tarnished brass handle. Marlowe pulled the key from his pocket. The lawyer had sent it along with the deed, and slid it into the lock. It turned smoothly. The door opened with a low creak, and they stepped inside. The interior was dim, dust floating in the shafts of light that came through the windows. But it wasn't empty. Furniture sat beneath white sheets. Chairs, a sofa, a dining table. The walls were panelled in dark wood. A stone fireplace dominated one wall, large enough to stand in. The floor was hardwood, scuffed but intact. Everything was still, quiet, preserved. Iris pulled back one of the sheets covering a chair. Underneath was a leather armchair, cracked with age but still sturdy. "Someone lived here," she said. "Recently, maybe." Marlowe walked through the main room into what looked like a kitchen. The appliances were old, avocado green, probably from the 70s, but they were clean. No signs of rot or decay. The sink was dry but functional. The cabinets were full of dishes, neatly stacked. It was like someone had simply walked out one day and never came back. He opened the refrigerator, empty but spotless. Iris appeared in the doorway. "There's a bedroom upstairs. The bed's made." They exchanged a look. "This doesn't make sense," Marlowe said. "Why would he leave it like this? Maybe he knew he was dying. Maybe he prepared it." "For us?" Iris shrugged. "For someone." They spent the next hour exploring. The lodge had 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a den with built-in bookshelves, and a back porch overlooking the forest. Every room was the same, furnished, covered, waiting. In the den, Marlowe found a stack of old photographs in a wooden box. He flipped through them slowly. Images of a man, tall and lean, standing beside the lodge, working on the porch, sitting in the leather chair, always alone, always serious. "That must be Thurman," Iris said, looking over his shoulder. Marlowe studied the face. He vaguely remembered meeting him at a family reunion decades ago. Quiet man, didn't talk much, kept to himself. He set the photos down and looked around the room. "Why us?" he asked. "Why leave this to us?" Iris didn't answer. She was staring at something on the far wall. "Marlowe," she said slowly, "come look at this." He crossed the room. She was standing in front of the bookshelf, running her hand along the wood. "What is it? This doesn't sit right. Look." She pressed on one side of the shelf. There was a soft click, and the entire bookcase shifted inward 1/2 inch. Marlowe's breath caught. Iris pushed harder, and the bookcase swung open like a door, revealing a narrow hallway behind it. They stared into the darkness beyond. "What the hell?" Marlowe whispered. Iris reached for the flashlight they'd bought in town. She flicked it on and aimed the beam into the hidden passage. The light revealed a set of stairs leading down, steep stone stairs descending into blackness. Marlowe's pulse hammered in his ears. Should we? Yes, Iris said immediately. She stepped through the opening. Marlowe followed. The stairs were narrow, the walls close. Their footsteps echoed. The air grew colder with each step down. Marlowe counted 23 steps before they reached the bottom. The flashlight beam swept across a heavy metal door, industrial grade, with a wheel lock like something from a bank vault. Iris moved closer, running her hand over the cold steel. "This isn't just a basement," she said. Marlowe stepped forward and gripped the wheel. He tried to turn it, locked. Beside the door was a keypad, old and dusty, and next to that, a small metal plate with a keyhole. "We need another key," Iris said. They searched the hidden hallway, the den, the entire lodge. Nothing. Finally, as the sun began to set and the lodge filled with shadows, Marlowe sat down in the leather chair and put his head in his hands. "There's something down there," he said. Something he wanted hidden. Iris stood by the window, looking out at the forest turning dark. "Maybe we're not supposed to find it yet," she said softly. "Maybe we need to earn it first." Marlowe looked up at her. "Earn it how?" She turned, and in the fading light, her face was calm, resolved. "By staying," she said. "By not running. By proving we're not like the others." Marlowe stood and crossed to her. He took her hands in his. "Then we stay," he said. Outside, the first stars appeared over the Montana mountains. Inside the lodge, two people who had been written off by the world stood together in the dark, surrounded by secrets they didn't yet understand. But they would, and when they did, nothing would ever be the same. The first night in the lodge, neither of them slept much. The silence was too complete, too heavy. Marlowe lay in the upstairs bedroom on sheets they'd found in a linen closet, still smelling faintly of cedar and lavender. Iris was curled beside him, her breathing soft but not the deep rhythm of sleep. Outside, the forest made sounds they weren't used to, branches creaking, something small scurrying across the roof, the distant call of an owl that seemed to echo forever. "You awake?" Iris whispered. "Yeah. What do you think is down there?" Marlowe stared at the ceiling, barely visible in the darkness. "I don't know, but he went to a lot of trouble to hide it." "Maybe it's dangerous." "Maybe." Iris shifted closer. "We should call someone, the lawyer maybe, ask questions." "We could," Marlowe said, "or we could figure it out ourselves first." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I like that better." When dawn finally broke through the tall windows, spilling pale gold light across the wood floors, they rose together. No alarm clocks, no schedule, just the soft pull of morning and the realization that for the first time in years they had nowhere they had to be. Marlowe made coffee in the old percolator he'd found in the kitchen. It sputtered and hissed, but eventually filled the lodge with the rich smell of something familiar and grounding. Iris opened windows, letting in cool mountain air that tasted like pine and stone. They sat on the front porch with their mugs, wrapped in blankets they'd pulled from the linen closet, and watched the sun climb over the mountains. "It's so quiet," Iris said. "Too quiet?" She shook her head slowly. "No, it's perfect." For the first time in months, maybe years, Marlowe felt his shoulders drop. The constant tension he'd been carrying, the anxiety of being a burden, the weight of family disappointment, the exhaustion of trying to stay small and unnoticed, began to ease. Out here, no one was watching, no one was judging, no one was waiting for them to fail. They spent the morning cleaning, not because the lodge was filthy, but because it felt like the right way to claim the space. Iris wiped down counters and swept floors. Marlowe pulled sheets off furniture, shook out dust, and opened closets to see what Thurman had left behind. In the main bedroom closet, he found clothes. Men's clothes. Flannel shirts, jeans, work boots. all neatly hung or folded, sizes that would fit Marlowe almost perfectly. In the bathroom, he found toiletries, shaving cream, razors, soap still in its wrapper. It was eerie, this sense of being expected. "Downstairs," Iris called out. "Marlowe, come see this." He found her in the kitchen, standing in front of the open pantry. Inside were rows of canned goods, soup, vegetables, beans, all with expiration dates years in the future. "He stocked it," she said. "Recently, look at these dates, 2022, 2023. He was planning for someone to be here." Marlowe scanned the shelves. There was pasta, rice, flour, sugar, coffee, tea, enough to last months. "He knew he was dying," Marlowe said slowly, "and he prepared this place for whoever came next." Iris turned to face him. "Why, though? Why go through all this trouble?" "I don't know," Marlowe admitted, "but I think we're supposed to find out." By midday, they'd made significant progress. The furniture was uncovered, the floors swept, the windows washed. The lodge looked less like a time capsule and more like a home. Iris arranged wildflowers she'd picked from the clearing in an old mason jar. Marlowe got the fireplace working, stacking wood he'd found in a covered shed out back. That afternoon, Marlowe's phone buzzed. Signal was weak up here, but just strong enough for texts to trickle through eventually. It was Derek. "Did you really drive to Montana? Are you serious right now?" Marlowe stared at the screen, then set the phone face down on the kitchen counter. 10 minutes later, it buzzed again. "Dad, this is insane. You guys can't just disappear. We've been worried sick." Marlowe picked up the phone and typed a short reply. "We're fine. We made it safely. The lodge is livable. We're staying for a while." He hit send. The response came within seconds. "Staying? For how long? You can't just live in the woods. You're not equipped for that. What about your medications? What about doctors?" Marlowe's jaw tightened. He typed back. "We brought our medications. There's a town 16 miles away. We're managing." "This is so irresponsible. Shauna and I are really disappointed in you guys. You're acting like children." Marlowe didn't respond. He turned the phone off completely and slipped it into his pocket. Iris looked up from the book she was paging through. "Derek?" "Yep." "What did he say?" "That we're acting like children." Iris set the book down. Her expression hardened in a way Marlowe rarely saw. "We raised him better than that." "I thought so too." They didn't talk about it again that day. Instead, they cooked dinner together using supplies from the pantry. Pasta with canned tomatoes and dried herbs they found in the cupboard. Simple food, warm and filling. They ate at the long wooden table in the dining room, candles flickering between them, because the overhead light felt too bright, too harsh for the kind of evening this was. "I haven't felt this relaxed in years," Iris said softly. Marlowe reached across and took her hand. "Me neither." After dinner, they sat in front of the fireplace. The flames crackled and popped. Outside, the forest grew dark, the kind of darkness that only exists far from cities, far from streetlights and car headlights and the glow of civilization. "Tomorrow," Marlowe said, "we should explore more, see what else is out here." Iris nodded. "And we should look for that key, the one for the vault." "You think it's here somewhere?" "It has to be. Thurman wouldn't leave us a locked door without a way to open it." Marlowe stared into the fire. "Unless we're not supposed to open it." "Then why show us it's there?" He didn't have an answer for that. The next morning, they woke to the sound of rain. Soft, steady, drumming on the roof and pattering against the windows. The kind of rain that makes you want to stay inside, wrapped in blankets, doing nothing at all. But they had work to do. Marlowe started in Thurman's bedroom. He went through the dresser drawers carefully, respectfully. Socks, undershirts, a few old watches. Nothing unusual. Under the bed, he found a wooden box. Inside were letters, yellowed with age, tied with string. He sat on the floor and read through them slowly. Most were from family members, distant cousins, an aunt. The tone was always the same, polite but distant, requests for money, invitations that felt obligatory, none of them warm, none of them real. One letter, dated 2008, stood out. It was from someone named Victor, apparently Thurman's half-brother. "You've always been selfish with what you have. You act like you earned it all yourself, like the rest of us don't deserve anything. Mom would be ashamed of you." Marlowe folded the letter slowly. His chest ached. Thurman had been alone, surrounded by family who only saw him as a bank account, people who resented him for protecting what was his. No wonder he'd hidden everything. Downstairs, Iris was exploring the den more carefully. She ran her hands along the walls, tapping softly, listening for hollow spaces. She checked behind picture frames, under rugs, inside books on the shelves. In one of the books, a thick volume about Rocky Mountain wildlife, she found a folded piece of paper tucked into the center pages. She opened it carefully. It was a hand-drawn map, rough but detailed. It showed the lodge, the clearing, and several outbuildings she hadn't noticed yet. One was labeled workshop, another storage. A third had no label, just a question mark. "Marlowe?" she called. He came down the stairs, the letters still in his hand. "Find something." She showed him the map. "There are buildings we haven't seen yet, and look at this one." She pointed to the unmarked structure. Why wouldn't he label it? Only one way to find out. They pulled on coats and boots and stepped out into the rain. It wasn't heavy, just a light drizzle that misted everything and made the forest smell rich and alive. Following the map, they walked past the main clearing into a grove of aspens. The trees were tall and white-barked, their leaves shimmering even in the grey light. After about 5 minutes, they found the first building, the workshop. It was larger than they'd expected, a solid structure with a pitched roof and a wide sliding door. Marlowe pulled it open. Inside was a mechanic's dream. Tools hung on pegboards. A workbench ran the length of one wall. Machinery, a lathe, a drill press, a table saw, all clean and maintained. Shelves held jars of nails, screws, bolts, everything organized by size. "He built things," Iris said, running her hand along the workbench, "or fixed them." Marlowe opened a drawer. Inside were notebooks, maintenance logs, each one dated and labeled. He pulled out the one on top. Lodge Maintenance Log 2015 to 2018. He flipped through the pages. Thurman had documented everything. Roof repairs, plumbing fixes, electrical upgrades. Every entry was meticulous, detailed, written in the same careful handwriting. But near the end of the 2018 log, the entries changed. Vault climate control system checked and calibrated. Humidity stable at 42%, temperature holding at 65 degrees. Vault security, motion sensors tested. Backup power supply functional. Reinforced door hinges. No rust, no wear. Collection inventory, complete recount. 34 items confirmed. All documentation secured. Marlowe looked up at Iris. 34 items. What kind of items need climate control and motion sensors? "I don't know," she said. "But whatever they are, they're valuable." They left the workshop and continued following the map. The rain picked up slightly. Their boots squelched in the mud. After another 10 minutes of walking, they found the second building. Storage. It was smaller, more utilitarian. Inside were boxes, dozens of them, all labeled and stacked neatly. Marlowe opened one at random. Christmas decorations. Another held old books. Another kitchen supplies. Nothing unusual, just the ordinary accumulation of a life lived. They closed the door and kept walking. The third building was harder to find. The map showed it deeper into the forest, away from any trail. They pushed through underbrush, stepping over fallen logs, until finally they saw it. A small stone structure, half buried in the hillside. It looked ancient, though Marlowe knew it couldn't be. The door was steel, modern, with a keypad lock. "This is it," Iris whispered. The unmarked building. Marlowe approached slowly. The keypad was dead, no lights, no power. But next to the door was a small plaque, brass, weathered, engraved with a single line, "For those who stay." Iris read it aloud, then looked at Marlowe. "We're staying." "Yeah," he said, "we are." They returned to the lodge as the rain finally stopped and the clouds began to break. Shafts of sunlight pierced through, turning the wet forest into something magical. Inside, they changed into dry clothes and made tea. They sat at the kitchen table with Thurman's maintenance logs spread between them. "He was protecting something," Marlowe said, flipping through pages. "Something big, something he didn't trust his family with." Iris leaned forward. "But why us? We barely knew him." "Maybe that's exactly why. We have no claim, no expectation. We're not here because we think we deserve something. We're here because we had nowhere else to go." Iris was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "He was testing us. The locked vault, the hidden buildings, the map tucked in a book. He wanted to see if we'd stay, if we'd look, if we'd care." "And we are." "Yeah," she said softly, "we are. What happens next will change everything. Not just for them, but for the family who abandoned them. The choices they make in the coming days will reveal who they really are. Stay with us to see how two people written off by the world become the ones who rewrite their story. If you're captivated by this journey, please like, share, and subscribe for more. Over the next week, they fell into a rhythm. Mornings on the porch with coffee. Days spent exploring, cleaning, learning the lodge's secrets. Evenings by the fire, reading or talking or just sitting in comfortable silence. Marlowe's phone stayed off most of the time. When he did turn it on to check messages, there were always texts from Derek or Natalie, increasingly angry, increasingly demanding. "You can't just ignore us. This is so selfish. We need to know what you're planning to do with the property." That last one made Marlowe laugh bitterly. Of course, that's what they cared about. Not whether he and Iris were safe, not whether they were happy, just the property, the value, the potential inheritance. He turned the phone off again. Iris's phone had similar messages. Shauna had taken to texting her directly. "I really think you guys need to come home and let us help you make decisions. You're not thinking clearly. Derek says the property is probably worthless, but we should at least have it appraised. It's not fair to keep us in the dark about our inheritance." Our inheritance? Iris deleted the messages without responding. One afternoon, while Marlowe was outside chopping firewood, Iris found something. She was cleaning the upstairs hallway, wiping down picture frames, when she noticed one hung slightly crooked. She straightened it. Behind it, the wall made a hollow sound. She pressed on it gently. A small panel popped open. Inside was a safe, small, digital, with a keypad. "Marlowe!" she called. He came running, axe still in hand. "Look," she said, pointing. He set the axe down carefully and examined the safe. "We need a code." "Try his birthday. Do you know it?" Marlowe thought. "August 14th, 1942? Iris typed 08141942. Nothing. "Try just the year," she said. 1942. Nothing. They tried variations, dates from the letters, the year the lodge was built. Nothing worked. Marlowe stepped back, frustrated. "We're missing something." Iris stared at the safe. Then her eyes widened. "For those who stay." "What?" "The plaque. On that stone building. It said, 'For those who stay.'" Marlowe frowned. So maybe that's the clue. How long have we been here?" "A week, 7 days." Iris typed 0007. The safe beeped. The lock disengaged. They both froze. Slowly, Iris pulled the door open. Inside was an envelope. Thick, sealed, with their names written on the front in Thurman's careful handwriting. "To Marlowe and Iris Albright." She pulled it out with trembling hands. Marlowe's heart was pounding. "Open it." She broke the seal carefully and pulled out several pages. A letter, and beneath it, a single brass key. Iris unfolded the letter and began to read aloud. Dear Marlowe and Iris, if you're reading this, you stayed. Most people wouldn't. Most people would have taken one look at this place, decided it was too much work, and walked away. Or worse, they would have started planning how to sell it before they even saw what it really was. But not you. I watched our family for 60 years. I watched them become greedy, entitled, cruel. They thought I owed them something just because we shared blood. They didn't care about me. They cared about what I had. So I decided none of them would get it. I spent 30 years building something. Not a fortune exactly, though I suppose that's what it became. I built security. I built safety. I built proof that a man can start with nothing and end with everything if he's patient and smart and willing to do the work no one else wants to do. I never married, never had children. My family thought that made me selfish. But the truth is, I never found anyone I could trust. Everyone wanted something from me, except maybe you two. I remember meeting you once, Marlowe. You were young. Your father brought you to a reunion. You shook my hand and didn't ask for anything. You just said hello and went back to playing with the other kids. That stuck with me. Years later, I heard about you through the family grapevine, heard your kids stopped calling, heard you and Iris were being pushed aside, treated like burdens. I knew that feeling, so I did something about it. This lodge is yours. Truly yours. But that's not all I'm giving you. Beneath this house is a vault. Inside that vault is everything I built. It's worth more than you can imagine. But I'm not giving it to you because you're family. I'm giving it to you because you stayed. The key in this envelope opens the vault. The code is your anniversary, day and month, 4 digits. What you do with what you find is up to you. Sell it, keep it, share it. I don't care. It's yours now. But I hope you'll do one thing for me. Don't let them take it from you. The ones who called you a burden. The ones who made you feel small. They don't deserve a single cent. You earned this by being decent people in a world that punishes decency. Stay strong, stay together, and know that someone saw you, someone believed you deserved better. Thurman. Iris's voice cracked on the last line. Tears streamed down her face. Marlowe took the letter from her with shaking hands and read it again and again. Someone saw you. His chest heaved. He tried to hold it in, but the sob came anyway, deep and raw. Iris wrapped her arms around him, and they clung to each other in the dim hallway, crying for all the years they'd felt invisible, for all the times they'd been told they didn't matter. Someone had seen them. Someone had believed they deserved better. When they finally pulled apart, eyes red and faces wet, Iris picked up the brass key. Our anniversary, she said. October 2nd. 1002, Marlowe said. They walked downstairs, through the den, to the hidden bookcase. Iris pushed it open, and they descended the stone steps together, flashlight in hand. At the bottom, Marlowe inserted the key into the vault door's lock. It turned smoothly. Then Iris typed the code into the keypad, 1002. A series of clicks, mechanical, final. The wheel lock released. Marlowe gripped it with both hands and turned. The vault door, heavy as a car, swung open on silent hinges. Air rushed out, cool, dry, perfectly controlled. They stepped inside, and their lives changed forever. The vault was the size of a large basement. The walls were lined with steel shelving. The floor was polished concrete, and everywhere were things of value. Filing cabinets, lockboxes, display cases, all labeled, all organized, all waiting. Marlowe moved to the nearest cabinet and opened it. Inside were stock certificates, pages and pages of them, companies he recognized, companies that had grown exponentially over the decades. Iris opened another. Bonds. Government bonds. Mature. Paid. Worth exponentially more than their original value. They moved deeper into the vault. There were stacks of currency in sealed containers, hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more. Precious metals in labeled boxes, Gold bars stamped with assay marks, platinum rounds, silver ingots stacked like books. There were rare coins in protective cases, jewelry in velvet-lined boxes, some pieces antique dripping with history, others modern, clearly investment grade. And in the very back, on a heavy wooden table, sat a leather-bound ledger. Marlowe opened it with trembling hands. It was an inventory. Every item catalogued, every value estimated, updated regularly. The most recent entry was dated 6 months ago. At the bottom of the final page, in Thurman's careful script, total estimated value as of March 2024, $307 million. Marlowe's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the concrete floor. Iris stood frozen, the flashlight beam shaking in her hand. $307 million. They sat in silence for what might have been minutes or hours. Time had stopped meaning anything. Finally, Iris whispered, "This isn't real." "It is," Marlowe said. "Look around. It's all real." She sank down beside him. "What do we do?" "I don't know." They sat together on the cold floor of a vault filled with more wealth than they'd ever imagined, surrounded by the life's work of a man who'd been as lonely as they were. A man who'd chosen them not because they were special, but because they were kind, because they stayed. Eventually, they stood. They walked back through the vault slowly, taking in details they'd missed the first time. The meticulous organization, the care in every label, every notation. Thurman had spent decades building this, protecting it, waiting for the right people, and somehow, impossibly, that was them. They climbed back up the stone stairs, closed the vault, sealed the hidden bookcase, and walked out onto the front porch as the sun set over the Montana mountains. The world looked different now. The trees, the sky, the distant peaks. Everything had changed. Iris leaned against the railing. "We can't tell anyone." "No," Marlowe agreed. "Not yet. Maybe not ever." Derek would. Derek would try to take it, or claim we're not competent to manage it, or lawyer up and fight us for years. Iris nodded slowly. "So we keep it secret. For now. Until we figure out what to do." They went inside as darkness fell, made dinner, moved through the familiar motions of their evening routine, but everything felt surreal, dreamlike. That night, lying in bed, Iris whispered, "Do you think he knew how it would feel?" "What?" "Being seen, being chosen, after years of being treated like nothing." Marlowe pulled her closer. "Yeah, I think he knew exactly how it would feel. Because he felt it too." Yeah. Outside, the forest breathed in the darkness. Inside the lodge, two people who'd been written off by everyone who was supposed to love them held each other and tried to comprehend what their lives had just become. They'd come to Montana expecting nothing. They'd found everything, and the hardest part was only beginning. The morning after they opened the vault, Marlowe woke before dawn. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his mind racing through calculations he didn't know how to make. $307 million. The number felt abstract, impossible, like something from a movie or a news story about someone else's life. Beside him, Iris stirred. "You're awake," she murmured. "Couldn't sleep." "Me neither." They dressed quietly and went downstairs. The lodge felt different now, heavier somehow, like the walls themselves knew what was hidden beneath them. Marlowe made coffee while Iris stood at the window, watching the sky lighten from black to deep blue to pale gold. "We need a plan," she said finally. Marlowe brought her a mug. "I know. We can't just leave it all sitting down there. We need lawyers, accountants, someone who knows how this works. But who can we trust?" That was the question that had kept him awake. Everyone they knew was connected to their family somehow. Their old accountant played golf with Derek. Their lawyer had handled their wills, which meant Derek and Natalie had his contact information. Even the doctor they'd seen for years was someone Natalie had recommended. Their entire support system was compromised. "We start over," Iris said, as if reading his thoughts. We find people here, in Montana, people who don't know Derek or Natalie or any of them. Marlowe nodded slowly. We need to protect this first, before we do anything else. Over the next 3 days, they worked methodically. Marlowe drove into Pine Ridge and spoke with the man at the general store, asking careful questions about local services. The man, whose name was Hank, recommended a security company based in Billings. They do work for the ranchers out here, he said. Good people, discreet. Marlowe called them from the landline in the lodge. The cell signal was too unreliable for important calls. A technician came out 2 days later, a quiet woman named Rosa who didn't ask unnecessary questions. She walked the property, examined the lodge, and nodded approvingly at the existing infrastructure. Whoever built this place knew what they were doing, she said. Good bones, solid security already in place. We can upgrade it without changing much. We need cameras, Marlowe said. Motion sensors, alarms, the works. Protecting something valuable. Our peace of mind, Iris said smoothly. Rosa smiled. That's the most valuable thing there is. She installed cameras at every entrance, motion sensors along the driveway and around the perimeter, and a modern alarm system that connected to her company's monitoring service. She also reinforced the locks on the vault door and added a backup power system that would keep everything running even if the main power failed. You're all set, she said as she packed up her equipment. Anything comes within 50 feet of this place, you'll know about it. Marlowe paid her in cash. She didn't blink. One more thing, Iris said. If anyone calls asking about this property or about us, we'd appreciate discretion. Rosa looked at them both for a long moment. I don't know you, she said finally, and I was never here. After she left, Marlowe and Iris stood in the driveway and looked at the lodge. It looked the same from the outside, weathered wood and stone surrounded by forest, but now it was fortified, protected. Step 1, Marlowe said. Now the hard part, Iris replied. They drove into Billings the next day. It took 2 hours on winding mountain roads, but the city, though small by most standards, had what they needed. Iris had researched law firms online using the lodge's surprisingly fast internet connection, another thing Thurman had set up perfectly. She'd found a firm that specialized in estate planning and asset protection. The senior partner was a woman named Caroline Voss. Her website showed someone in her 50s, sharp-eyed and serious, with credentials from universities Marlowe had heard of but never imagined being connected to. They didn't make an appointment. They just walked in. The receptionist looked up, clearly surprised to see 2 elderly people in practical clothing standing in the sleek, modern lobby. Can I help you? We need to speak with Caroline Voss, Marlowe said. It's urgent. Do you have an appointment? No, but we have a significant legal matter that requires immediate attention. The receptionist's professional smile flickered. I'm sorry, but Ms. Voss is very busy. I can schedule something for next month. We'll pay her retainer today, Iris said calmly. In cash, 5 figures for 1 hour of her time. The receptionist blinked. Let me check. She disappeared down a hallway. 5 minutes later, Caroline Voss herself appeared. She was exactly as her photo suggested, intelligent, skeptical, and clearly intrigued. I'm Caroline Voss. You wanted to see me? We did, Marlowe said. Is there somewhere private we can talk? She studied them for a moment, then nodded. Follow me. Her office was all windows and clean lines. She gestured to 2 chairs across from her desk and sat down, folding her hands. You have 5 minutes to convince me this is worth my time. Marlowe pulled out a folded paper from his jacket. It was 1 page from Thurman's inventory ledger. He'd photographed the rest, but brought only this 1 sheet. He slid it across the desk. Caroline picked it up and read. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes sharpened. This is an asset inventory. Yes. Yours? Inherited, legally, 3 weeks ago. She read further. Her eyebrows rose slightly. These valuations are conservative, Iris said. We had them verified by the original owner's documentation. Caroline set the paper down carefully. You're sitting on significant wealth. Yes. And you want to protect it. Yes. From whom? Marlowe took a breath. Our family. Over the next hour, they told her everything. The inheritance, the family's dismissal, the vault, Thurman's letter, the $307 million sitting beneath a lodge in the mountains. They left nothing out. Caroline listened without interrupting, taking notes in careful shorthand. When they finished, she sat back and studied them. You understand this will get complicated. We do, Iris said. Your children will fight, especially when they find out the scope of what you've inherited. They'll claim undue influence, diminished capacity. They'll argue you can't manage assets of this magnitude. Can they win? Marlowe asked. Not if we do this right. She leaned forward. First, we establish your competency beyond any question. Medical evaluations, cognitive testing, documentation that proves you're of sound mind. Second, we create legal structures that make it nearly impossible for them to access or contest. Trusts, LCs, foundations, layers of protection. Third, we move quickly. The longer they have to organize, the harder this gets. How long do we have? Iris asked. Before they figure it out? Hard to say, but I'd recommend we have everything in place within 60 days. And you can do this? Caroline smiled slightly. Mrs. Albright, this is what I do, and I'm very, very good at it. They hired her on the spot. Back at the lodge that evening, Marlowe felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not the desperate, fragile kind that breaks at the first setback, but solid, grounded hope built on a foundation of action. They'd taken the first steps. They were protecting what was theirs. But deep down, he knew the real fight was still coming. 2 weeks later, it arrived. Marlowe was outside splitting wood when he heard the vehicles. 2 of them, engines rumbling up the long driveway. He set down the axe and wiped his hands on his jeans, his heart already sinking. Iris appeared on the porch. Who is it? I think we're about to find out. The vehicles came into view, a silver SUV and a dark sedan. The SUV belonged to Derek. Marlowe recognized it from the last time they'd visited, over a year ago. Both vehicles parked in front of the lodge. Doors opened. Derek climbed out first, wearing khakis and a polo shirt like he was headed to a country club. Shauna emerged from the passenger side, oversized sunglasses covering half her face. From the sedan came Natalie and her husband Garrett, both dressed in what looked like hiking gear bought specifically for this trip and never worn before. They stood in a line, staring at the lodge. "Holy shit!" Derek said. "This is actually nice." Marlowe stayed where he was, 20 feet away, hands loose at his sides. Iris remained on the porch. "What are you doing here?" Marlowe asked. Derek turned to him. "Seriously? You disappear for a month, barely answer texts, and you're asking what we're doing here? We came to check on you." "We're fine." "Yeah, we can see that." Shauna walked toward the lodge, her heels sinking into the soft ground. "This place is way bigger than you made it sound." "I didn't make it sound like anything. You all decided it was worthless without ever seeing it." Natalie approached, arms crossed. "We were worried about you, both of you. You're not exactly spring chickens living out here alone." "We're managing just fine," Iris said from the porch. "Really?" Garrett spoke up. "Because this seems kind of reckless. No neighbors, no hospital nearby. What if something happens?" "Then we'll handle it," Marlowe said. Derek walked past him toward the lodge. "Can we at least come inside? We drove 4 hours." Marlowe wanted to say no, wanted to tell them to turn around and leave, but Iris gave him a small nod. "Fine," he said. "Come in." They filed into the lodge, and Marlowe watched their faces as they took in the interior, the furniture, the fireplace, the tall windows, the craftsmanship. "Wow," Natalie said softly. "This is actually really beautiful." Shauna ran her hand along the dining table. "This wood is gorgeous. Is it original?" "Yes," Iris said. They moved through the main floor, opening doors, peering into rooms, asking questions that felt less like concern and more like appraisal. "How much land did you say came with it?" Garrett asked. 300 acres, Marlowe said. Derek whistled low. "And you got this for what? Just inheritance tax?" "Something like that. Do you have any idea what this is worth?" There it was. Marlowe's jaw tightened. "No, haven't had it appraised." "You should. I mean, this is a serious asset. You need to know what you're sitting on." "Why?" Derek turned to face him. "What do you mean, why?" "Because it's valuable. Because it's part of your estate. Because it affects all of us." "How does it affect you?" "Dad, come on. You know what I mean. Eventually, this all gets passed down. We're just trying to help you plan." Marlowe looked at Iris. Her expression was calm, but he could see the anger simmering beneath. "We appreciate your concern," she said carefully, "but we're not planning anything right now. We're just settling in." "Settling in?" Shauna laughed. "You mean you're actually thinking of living here? Permanently?" "Why not?" "Because you're 70 years old, both of you. This place is in the middle of nowhere. What about your doctors, your prescriptions, your friends?" "What friends?" Iris asked quietly. The room went silent. Natalie shifted uncomfortably. "Mum, that's not fair." "Isn't it? When was the last time any of you called just to talk? Not to ask for something, not to tell us what we should be doing, just to see how we were?" "We've been busy. So have we." Derek held up his hands. "Okay, let's not do this. We came here to help, to make sure you're okay. Clearly you're fine. The place is great. We're happy for you. But you have to admit, this is a big change, a big responsibility." "We can handle it," Marlowe said. "I'm sure you think you can. But have you thought about maintenance, property taxes, insurance? This isn't a little apartment, Dad. This is a massive property. It's a lot to manage." "We're managing." "Are you?" Shauna walked toward the kitchen. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're playing house in someone else's life. This belonged to some cousin you barely knew. Don't you think it's weird he left it to you? Don't you wonder what the catch is?" Marlowe's hands clenched. "There's no catch." "How do you know?" "Because I read his letter. Because I understand why he did it." "Oh, really? And why's that?" Marlowe looked at each of them in turn. His children, their spouses, people he'd raised, sacrificed for, loved unconditionally. People who only showed up when they thought there was something in it for them. "Because we're not like you," he said quietly. The temperature in the room dropped. "Excuse me?" Natalie said. "You heard me." Derek's face reddened. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" "It means Thurman didn't trust his family. He spent his whole life watching them circle like vultures, waiting for him to die so they could pick his bones clean. So he gave everything to someone who didn't ask for it, someone who wouldn't see it as an opportunity to take." "That's not fair," Natalie said, her voice rising. "We're here because we care about you." "Are you? Or are you here because you found out this place is worth something and you want to make sure you get your piece?" "How dare you? How dare I?" Marlowe's voice rose for the first time. "You left us alone for years, treated us like we were a burden you couldn't wait to shuffle off to some facility. You didn't call. You didn't visit. You made it very clear we didn't fit into your busy, important lives. And now that we have something you want, suddenly you care." "Dad," Derek started. Don't stand there and pretend this is about love or family or concern. You want to know what this place is worth. You want to know what your inheritance looks like. You want to start planning how you'll divide it up when we're gone." Shauna stepped forward, her face tight. "You're being paranoid." "Am I? Then leave, right now. Walk out that door and don't come back until you actually give a damn about us and not what we have." No one moved. "That's what I thought," Marlowe said. Iris walked to the front door and opened it. "I think you should go." "Mom, please," Natalie tried. "No, your father is right. You don't get to ignore us for years and then show up demanding transparency about our finances. This is our home, our life, and what we do with it is none of your business." Garrett spoke up. "With all due respect, it kind of is our business. We're your family. We have a stake in—" "You have a stake in nothing," Iris said, her voice like steel. "We owe you nothing. You want an inheritance? Earn it. Be our children. Act like you love us. Prove you care about something other than money." The silence that followed was suffocating. Finally, Derek shook his head. "This is insane. You've lost your minds, both of you." "Maybe," Marlowe said. "Or maybe we finally found them." Derek looked at Shauna. "Let's go." They filed out, faces flushed with anger and something else. Shock, maybe, or the first creeping understanding that they'd lost control of the narrative. Natalie paused at the door. "You'll regret this." "Probably not," Iris said. They watched from the porch as the vehicles reversed, turned around, and drove away down the long driveway, disappearing into the trees. When the sound of engines finally faded, Marlowe's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the porch steps. Iris sat beside him, taking his hand. "That was awful," she whispered. "Yeah, but necessary." "Yeah." They sat in silence for a long time, watching the sun move across the clearing. "They'll come back," Iris said eventually. "With lawyers, probably." "Let them. We'll be ready." Inside, Marlowe's phone buzzed. He'd left it on the kitchen counter. He ignored it. It buzzed again, and again, and again. Finally, he went inside and looked at the screen. 17 text messages, 12 from Derek, 5 from Natalie. He read the first one from Derek. "This isn't over. You can't just cut us out. We're your family." He read the last one. "We're getting a lawyer. If you're not competent to manage your affairs, we'll prove it in court." Marlowe showed the phone to Iris. She read the messages, her face hardening with each one. "Call Caroline," she said. Marlowe did. The lawyer answered on the second ring. "Mr. Albright, I was expecting your call." "They came. It went badly." "Did they threaten legal action?" "Yes." "Good." Marlowe blinked. "Good?" "Means they're scared. Scared people make mistakes. Let them file whatever they want. We're 3 steps ahead of them." She paused. "Are you and Iris okay?" "We're fine." "Then stay the course. And Mr. Albright, stop reading their texts. Block their numbers if you have to. You don't owe them your mental peace." After he hung up, Marlowe did exactly that. He blocked Derek's number, Natalie's number, Shauna's, Garrett's, all of them. The silence that followed was immediate and profound. "Weird," he said to Iris. "I thought I'd feel guilty." "Do you?" "No, I feel free." Over the following weeks, they learned just how prepared Caroline had been. She'd anticipated every move their children would make, and she'd already built defenses against each one. When Derek's lawyer filed a motion claiming Marlowe and Iris were not competent to manage a large estate, Caroline produced comprehensive medical evaluations from 3 separate doctors, all showing perfect cognitive function. When Natalie tried to claim undue influence, that Thurman had somehow manipulated them, Caroline produced Thurman's will, his letters, and testimony from the estate lawyer who'd handled the transfer. Everything had been done by the book, years in advance, with no contact between Thurman and Marlowe during the planning process. When they tried to argue that Marlowe and Iris were hiding assets that should be part of a family estate plan, Caroline produced trusts, LCs, and foundations, all legally established, all completely airtight. Every attack was deflected, every argument dismantled. After 6 weeks, Derek's lawyer called Caroline and asked if there was room for settlement. Caroline's response was simple: no. The legal challenges collapsed. Marlowe and Iris received a final letter from Derek's legal team, acknowledging that they had no grounds to continue. It was formal, cold, and final. That night, they burned it in the fireplace. It's over, Iris said, watching the paper curl and blacken. The legal part, Marlowe agreed, but not the rest. What do you mean? I mean we have to decide what to do with it. The money, the assets, all of it. They'd been avoiding that conversation, focusing on protection rather than purpose. But now, with the immediate threat gone, the question loomed large. $307 million. What do you do with that kind of wealth when you're 70 years old and have spent your whole life scraping by? They spent several days just thinking, walking the property, sitting by the lake they'd discovered a mile into the forest, talking through possibilities. Finally, one evening over dinner, Iris said, I think I know what Thurman wanted. What? He wanted us to do what he couldn't. He was too scared, too isolated, too hurt by his family. But we're not. Not anymore. I don't follow. He didn't just give us money, Marlowe. He gave us power. The power to help people like us. People who've been written off. People who've been told they don't matter. Marlowe set down his fork. You want to give it away. Not all of it. We need to take care of ourselves. But most of it? Yes. I want to use it the way he probably wished he could have. Marlowe thought about that. About all the years they'd struggled. About all the people they'd known who'd struggled the same way. People dismissed by family, by society, by a world that valued youth and productivity over wisdom and dignity. Okay, he said, let's do it. They called Caroline the next morning. We want to start a foundation, Iris said. Caroline's voice warmed. I was hoping you'd say that. Over the next 3 months, they built something unprecedented. The Thurman Albright Foundation for Elder Dignity and Independence. Its mission was simple: support elderly individuals who had been abandoned or exploited by their families. They funded legal aid for seniors fighting financial abuse. They created safe housing for elderly people who'd been forced from their homes. They established grants for healthcare, for education, for small business ventures started by people over 65. They did it all quietly. No press releases, no publicity, just steady, purposeful work. Iris took charge of the grant applications, reading each one personally. Marlowe handled the property side, working with Caroline to purchase small homes and apartments in various states, creating a network of safe, affordable housing for displaced seniors. They didn't do it for recognition. They did it because they understood what it felt like to be invisible. And slowly, quietly, they began to change lives. The letters started arriving 6 months after the foundation launched. Handwritten notes from people they'd never met, but whose stories echoed their own. Thank you for believing I still mattered. You saved my home when my son tried to take it. I'm 68 years old and you helped me start a business. No one else would. Marlowe read each one aloud to Iris in the evenings. Sometimes they cried. Sometimes they laughed. Always they felt the weight of what they'd been given and the privilege of passing it on. One letter came from a woman in Oregon named Beth. She was 73, living in her car after her daughter convinced her to sign over her house and then evicted her. The foundation's legal team helped her get the house back and prosecute the daughter for elder abuse. Beth's letter was 6 pages long. At the end she wrote, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd die alone and forgotten. You proved me wrong. You proved I still had value. I can never repay you, but I promise I'll pay it forward. Iris folded the letter carefully and placed it in a box where they kept all the others. We're doing something right, she said. Yeah, Marlowe agreed. We are. But not everyone was happy about it. One afternoon, Marlowe's old phone, the one he'd stopped using but kept charged out of habit, rang. He didn't recognize the number, but answered anyway. Hello? Dad, it's Derek. Marlowe almost hung up, but something in his son's voice stopped him. What do you want? I heard about the foundation. How? One of Shauna's friends. Her mother got a grant. She was bragging about it. about how some rich couple was helping seniors. Marlowe said nothing. Is it true? Are you funding all that? Yes. A long pause. How much money do you have? More than you'll ever see. Another pause. Longer. I was wrong, Derek said quietly. About all of it. I thought you were being crazy. Thought you'd lost it, but you haven't. You're sharper than you've ever been. Thank you for noticing. Dad, I'm sorry for everything. For how we treated you. For what we said. For not seeing what we had until it was gone. Marlowe's chest tightened. Do you mean that? Or do you mean you're sorry you didn't get a piece of the inheritance? I mean I'm sorry I wasn't a better son. The words hung in the air. I don't expect you to forgive me, Derek continued, and I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know I was wrong. You and Mom, you're incredible. What you're doing with that foundation, it's amazing, and I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. Marlowe closed his eyes. Derek, I have to go. But I wanted you to hear that from me. Not from a lawyer, not from anyone else. From me. The line went dead. Marlowe stood in the kitchen, phone in hand, staring out the window at the forest. Iris appeared in the doorway. Who was that? Derek. Her expression hardened. What did he want? To apologize. Do you believe him? Marlowe thought about that, about his son's voice, about the words he'd chosen. I don't know, he said honestly, but I think maybe I want to. That's different from forgiving him. Yeah, it is. They didn't contact Derek, didn't reach out, but they didn't block his number again either. Some doors, they decided, could stay cracked open. Not wide, just enough to let in light if it ever found its way back. A year after they'd first arrived at the lodge, Marlowe and Iris stood on the front porch at sunrise. The forest was alive with bird songs. The air smelled like pine and morning dew. Do you ever miss it? Iris asked. The old life? Marlowe thought about the cramped apartment, the bills they couldn't pay, the loneliness, the feeling of being invisible. No, he said, not even a little. Me neither. They'd changed in that year, both of them, not just in circumstance, but in spirit. Marlowe stood straighter now, spoke with more confidence. Iris laughed more easily, smiled without effort. They'd found something here they hadn't even known they were looking for. Purpose. The foundation was thriving. They'd helped over 200 people in 12 states. They'd prevented dozens of cases of elder abuse. They'd given people back their dignity, their independence, their belief that they still mattered. And they'd done it without flash or fanfare, just quiet, steady work. I got a letter yesterday, Iris said, from someone asking how they could help. They want to donate time, expertise, anything we need. That's good. It's more than good. It means it's growing beyond us, becoming something bigger. Marlowe pulled her close. Thurman would be proud. I think he is. They stood together as the sun climbed higher, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Somewhere in the forest, an eagle called. Somewhere downstream, water rushed over stones. And in the basement beneath their feet, $300 million sat secure and purposeful, no longer a secret to be hoarded, but a tool to be wielded with care and compassion. Marlowe had spent his whole life being told he wasn't enough. That he didn't have enough, didn't do enough, didn't matter enough. Now he knew different. Wealth wasn't about numbers in an account. It was about what you built with it, who you helped, what you left behind. And he and Iris were building something that would outlast them both. That evening, they sat in the den with a fire crackling in the hearth. Iris was reading grant applications. Marlowe was reviewing property acquisitions for the next safe housing project. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. He opened it. Hi, Grandpa, it's Sam, Derek's son. I heard what you and Grandma are doing. I think it's really cool. I'd like to visit sometime if that's okay. No pressure, just thought I'd ask. Marlowe stared at the message for a long time. Then he showed it to Iris. She read it twice. "What do you think?" "I think maybe some things are worth rebuilding. Not with Derek and Natalie, not yet." "No, but maybe with the next generation. Maybe they're different." Iris nodded slowly. "You want to respond?" "Yeah, I do." He typed carefully. "Hi, Sam. We'd love to see you. Let us know when you can come. We'll be here." He hit send. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, "Thank you. I'll come soon. I've missed you." Marlowe set the phone down and looked at Iris. "Think we're doing the right thing?" he asked. "I think we're doing what feels right, and sometimes that's all you can do." They returned to their work. The fire crackled. Outside, the forest settled into evening, and in a lodge in the Montana mountains, 2 people who'd been written off by the world proved that being forgotten wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning of a better one. Sam arrived 3 weeks later on a Thursday afternoon. Marlowe saw the old sedan coming up the driveway and felt his stomach tighten with something between hope and caution. Iris stood beside him on the porch, her hand finding his. The car stopped and a young man climbed out. 22, maybe 23 years old. Tall like Derek, but with softer features. He wore jeans and a flannel shirt, work boots that had actually seen work. His hair was sandy brown and slightly too long. He stood there for a moment, looking at the lodge, then at them. "Hi," he said, his voice uncertain. "I'm Sam." "We know who you are," Marlowe said, but his tone was gentle. "Come on up." Sam climbed the porch steps slowly. Up close, Marlowe could see his eyes, green like irises, like his mother's before the hardness set in. "Thank you for letting me come," Sam said. "I wasn't sure you would." "Why wouldn't we?" Iris asked. "Because of Dad, because of everything they said, everything they did." Marlowe gestured to the chairs on the porch. "Sit, we'll get some coffee." They sat together as the afternoon sun filtered through the pines. Sam held his mug with both hands like he needed something to anchor him. "I didn't know," he said finally, "about how they treated you. I mean, I knew we didn't visit much, but I didn't know they were so cruel." "You were young," Iris said. "It wasn't your fault. But I should have noticed. Should have asked questions. Should have cared enough to check in." Marlowe studied his grandson. There was genuine regret in his voice, genuine pain. "You're here now," Marlowe said. "That's what matters." Sam looked up, eyes wet. "Dad told me about the foundation, about what you're doing. At first, I thought he was exaggerating, but I looked it up. Grandpa, you've helped hundreds of people." "We're trying." "No, you're doing it. You're actually changing lives. And I just—" His voice broke. "I'm so sorry we made you feel like you didn't matter, because you matter more than anyone I know." Iris reached across and took his hand. "Tell us about you. What are you doing? What do you want?" Sam wiped his eyes with his free hand. "I'm in grad school, social work. I want to help people who fall through the cracks. Elderly people mostly. People who get forgotten." Marlowe and Iris exchanged a look. "Why that field?" Iris asked. "Because of you, actually. Even when I was little, I noticed how people treated you. How Dad and Aunt Natalie talked about you when you weren't around, and it didn't feel right. It made me angry, but I didn't know how to say it. And now I'm saying it, and I'm asking if maybe there's a way I can help, with the foundation, not for money or connections or anything like that, just because it's the right thing to do." They talked for hours. Sam told them about his classes, his internship at a senior center, his thesis on elder financial abuse. They told him about the foundation, about Thurman, about the vault, and the decision to use the wealth to help others. As the sun began to set, Sam stood to leave. "Can I come back?" he asked. "Not to ask for anything, just to know you, the real you." "Yes," Marlowe said. "Come back any time." After Sam drove away, Marlowe and Iris sat in the growing darkness. "Do you trust him?" Iris asked. "I want to." "That's not the same thing." "No, but maybe it's enough to start." Sam returned 2 weeks later, and then again a month after that. Each visit was longer, more comfortable. He helped with projects around the lodge, chopped wood, fixed a loose board on the porch. He listened to their stories and shared his own. Slowly, carefully, trust began to build. On his 4th visit, he brought someone with him, a young woman named Maya, his girlfriend, studying geriatric nursing. She was quiet, respectful, genuinely interested in their work. "I hope it's okay I brought her," Sam said. "She wanted to meet you." "More than okay," Iris said, and meant it. They had dinner together that night. Maya asked thoughtful questions about the foundation, about elder care, about how to spot signs of abuse. She didn't ask about money or property or inheritance. She asked about people. After they left, Iris said, "I like her." "Me too." "Do you think we can let them in? Really let them in?" Marlowe thought about that, about the wounds his children had left, about the fear of being hurt again. "I think we have to try," he said. "Not for them, for us. So we don't become what we're fighting against, people who write off others without giving them a chance." Over the next year, the foundation grew exponentially. Word spread through senior communities, through social workers, through churches and community centers. The applications for help tripled, then quadrupled. Marlowe and Iris hired staff, real staff, not just lawyers and accountants, but people who understood the mission. They brought on a director, a woman named Patricia, who'd spent 30 years in elder advocacy. They hired caseworkers, legal specialists, housing coordinators. The foundation opened offices in 5 states. They purchased a network of properties, small apartment buildings, duplexes, converted motels, all turned into safe, affordable housing for seniors who'd been displaced or exploited. They funded legal clinics that handled elder abuse cases for free. They created a hotline where seniors could report financial exploitation anonymously. They started an education program teaching older adults how to protect themselves from scams and predatory family members. Every month, Iris reviewed hundreds of grant applications. Every month, Marlowe visited new properties, met with contractors, ensured the housing was safe and dignified. They worked 12-hour days sometimes, but they never felt tired. They felt alive. One afternoon, Patricia knocked on the door of the lodge. They'd given her a key and an open invitation, but she rarely came unless it was important. "We have a situation," she said, settling into a chair in the den. "What kind?" Marlowe asked. "Good situation. Overwhelming situation. We've been approached by 3 other foundations wanting to partner with us. They want to replicate our model in their regions. They're offering funding, resources, connections." "That's good, isn't it?" Iris said. "It is. But it also means you two need to make a decision. Do you want to scale up, go national, or keep it focused and regional?" Marlowe looked at Iris. They'd talked about this possibility, but always in abstract terms. "What do you think?" he asked her. "I think we didn't start this to build an empire. We started it to help people. But if we scale up, we help more people. Or we lose control, lose the personal touch, become just another bureaucracy." Patricia nodded. "Those are the risks, but I'll tell you something. You've created something special, something people believe in. If you don't grow it, someone else will copy it, and they might not do it with the same heart." They spent a week discussing it, weighing options, consulting with Caroline, with staff, with seniors they'd helped who'd become unofficial advisors. Finally, they made a decision. They would expand, but carefully. They would maintain direct oversight of every regional office. They would require every staff member to spend time with the people they served, not just push papers. They would keep the foundation's heart even as its reach extended. "We do this right," Marlowe said, "or we don't do it at all." Within 18 months, the Thurman Albright Foundation operated in 15 states. They'd helped over 2,000 people, prevented millions of dollars in elder financial abuse, provided housing for over 400 seniors, and they did it all while staying true to their mission. But success brought attention, the kind they'd been trying to avoid. The first article appeared in a national newspaper. Anonymous benefactors create elder care revolution. It didn't name Marlowe and Iris, but it described the foundation, its work, its impact. Then a television news segment, then another. Then requests for interviews, appearances, speaking engagements. They declined them all. "We're not the story," Iris told Patricia. "The people we help are the story." But people were curious, especially about the funding. Where did the money come from? Who were these mysterious founders? Eventually, a reporter connected the dots. He found property records, deed transfers, the original inheritance from Thurman. The article ran with the headline, "Elderly Couple Turns $300 million Inheritance into Elder Care Empire." Marlowe saw it first. He was in town buying supplies when he spotted it in the newspaper rack at the general store. His photo, an old one from before when he still looked defeated, was on the front page next to Iris's. He bought every copy in the store and drove home faster than he should have. "We've been exposed," he said, dropping the newspapers on the kitchen table. Iris read the article slowly. It was mostly accurate, mostly respectful, but it revealed everything. Their names, the amount of money, the family estrangement, even details about Derek and Natalie's failed legal challenges. "Well," she said finally, "I guess the secret's out. You're not upset?" "I'm not thrilled, but maybe it's time. We've been hiding for 2 years. Maybe it's time to own what we've built." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Their phones exploded with messages. Some supportive, some not. Derek called. Marlowe didn't answer. Natalie sent a long email. Iris deleted it without reading. But there were other messages, from people they'd helped, from strangers inspired by their story, from seniors across the country saying thank you for showing the world we still matter. Those were the ones that mattered. A week after the article, Sam called. "Grandpa, are you okay? I saw the news." "We're fine." "Dad's losing his mind. He's telling everyone the article got it wrong, that you're not actually that rich, that it's all exaggerated." "Let him say what he wants. Aunt Natalie posted on social media that she's always been supportive of you. It's complete bullshit. People are calling her out in the comments." Marlowe couldn't help but smile a little. Karma. "The thing is," Sam continued, "I'm really proud of you, both of you. What you've built, it's incredible. And I wanted you to know that not everyone in this family is ashamed or jealous or whatever. Some of us think you're heroes." Marlowe's throat tightened. "Thank you, Sam. That means more than you know." After he hung up, Marlowe found Iris in the den, staring at the fireplace. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm thinking about Thurman, about how lonely he must have been, how much he wanted to do something meaningful but was too scared of being hurt. We're doing it for him. We're doing it for us, too, for everyone who's been written off." She turned to face him. "Do you have any regrets?" Marlowe thought about that, about the quiet life they could have lived, about taking the money and disappearing, living in luxury, answering to no one. "No," he said, "not one." The Foundation's 3rd anniversary was marked not with a party, but with a quiet ceremony. They gathered in the clearing outside the lodge with staff, volunteers, and a handful of people they'd helped over the years. Patricia presented them with a bound book. Inside were letters, hundreds of them, from people whose lives had been changed. Iris read one aloud, her voice shaking. "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Albright, my name is Thomas. I'm 81 years old. 2 years ago my son stole my life savings and left me homeless. I wanted to die. I had nothing, no hope, no future. Then I found your foundation. You gave me legal help. You helped me get my money back. You gave me a safe place to live. But more than that, you gave me back my dignity. You reminded me I was still a person, still worthy, still here. I can never repay you, but I promise to live the rest of my life honoring what you gave me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There wasn't a dry eye in the clearing. After the ceremony, Marlowe and Iris walked to the lake. It had become their ritual. Whenever things felt heavy or overwhelming, they came here. They sat on the smooth stones at the water's edge. The surface was glass calm, reflecting the mountains and sky. "We've done something, haven't we?" Iris said softly. "Yeah, we have. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd just sold the lodge, taken the money and run?" "Sometimes. But I think we'd have been miserable." "Why?" "Because we'd have known we wasted it. We'd have known we had the power to help and chose not to." Iris leaned her head on his shoulder. "When did you get so wise?" "When I started listening to you." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun began its descent. Somewhere across the lake, a loon called. The sound echoed across the water, lonely and beautiful. "I got a call from Maya yesterday," Iris said. "Sam's girlfriend?" "Fiancée now, they're engaged," Marlowe smiled. "That's wonderful." "She asked if we'd come to the wedding." "Do you want to?" "Yes, I really do. Is that naive? To hope that maybe this generation can be different?" "I don't think it's naive. I think it's brave." 6 months later, they attended Sam and Maya's wedding. It was small, intimate, held in a botanical garden in Seattle. Derek was there, Natalie too. They gave Marlowe and Iris a wide berth, speaking only when necessary, their smiles tight and false. But Sam and Maya glowed. During his toast, Sam looked directly at Marlowe and Iris. "My grandparents taught me something crucial," he said. "They taught me that it's never too late to become who you're meant to be, that being written off by others doesn't define your worth, that real wealth is what you give away, not what you keep. Grandpa, Grandma, thank you for showing me what it means to live with purpose." People applauded. Some who didn't know the full story looked confused. But those who did understand, and there were many, stood. After the wedding, as they were leaving, Derek approached. He looked older, grayer, smaller somehow. "Dad, Mom, can we talk?" Marlowe almost said no, almost walked past him, but Iris squeezed his hand. "What do you want to say?" Marlowe asked. Derek's face worked. "I want to say I'm sorry, really sorry. Not because of the money, not because I want something, but because I failed you. I was so focused on my own life, my own problems, that I forgot you were people with feelings and needs and worth." "Yes, you did," Marlowe said flatly. "I know I can't undo it. I know apologizing doesn't fix anything, but I wanted you to know. I see what you've built, what you're doing, and I'm ashamed I ever thought you weren't capable of great things." Marlowe looked at his son, saw genuine remorse, genuine pain. "I appreciate you saying that," Marlowe said carefully, "but I need you to understand something. We don't need your approval. We don't need your validation. We're not doing this to prove anything to you." "I know." "Do you?" "Because for years you treated us like we were in your way, like we were a problem to be managed, and that hurt. It still hurts." Derek's eyes filled. "I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life regretting it." Iris spoke up. "Regret isn't enough. If you want to rebuild something with us, it has to be real. It has to be consistent. We're not going to accept half measures or convenient apologies that disappear when they're not useful anymore. I understand, and I want to try, if you'll let me." They didn't answer, just nodded slightly and walked away. In the car, Iris said, "Think he means it?" "Maybe. Time will tell." "Will you let him try?" Marlowe thought about that, about forgiveness, about second chances. Probably, eventually, but he's got a long road ahead. "And Natalie?" "Natalie hasn't even tried to apologize, so no, not yet." They drove back to Montana in comfortable silence, the mountains rising around them like old friends welcoming them home. The foundation's fifth year brought new challenges. The economy shifted. Donations from partner organizations decreased. Some properties needed major repairs. Staffing became harder as more organizations competed for qualified elder care workers. Patricia brought the concerns to Marlowe and Iris during their monthly review. "We're not in danger of closing," she said, "but we need to be strategic. We can't keep growing at this pace without more sustainable funding." "What do you recommend?" Marlowe asked. "We need to tap into the principal, not all of it, but enough to create an endowment that generates reliable income." Marlowe and Iris looked at each other. They'd been careful to only use investment returns, keeping the principal intact. Touching it felt significant. "How much?" Iris asked. 50 million would create an endowment that generates 2 to 3 million annually, enough to sustain operations without constant fundraising. They took a week to decide, consulted with Caroline, ran the numbers, considered the implications. Finally, they agreed. "Thurman built this wealth to help people," Marlowe said, "not to sit in a vault forever." They transferred 50 million into an endowment fund. The rest, still over 200 million, remained in trusts and investments, protected and growing. With stable funding secured, the foundation shifted focus from expansion to depth. They developed new programs: peer counseling for seniors dealing with family estrangement, financial literacy classes, technology training to help elderly people stay connected and independent. They created a fellowship program, bringing in graduate students like Sam to learn and contribute. Maya joined after finishing her nursing degree, developing health and wellness programs for the housing residents. The work continued, evolved, deepened, and Marlowe and Iris, now in their mid-70s, showed no signs of slowing down. "We should talk about succession planning," Patricia said one afternoon. "You mean what happens when we die?" Iris asked bluntly. "Yes, the foundation needs a plan, a structure that ensures it continues with the same mission and values." They'd been avoiding this conversation, but Patricia was right. They worked with Caroline to establish a board of directors, not family, not friends, but people who understood elder care, who believed in the mission, who had no financial stake in the outcomes. They created bylaws that prevented anyone from profiting personally from the foundation. They established term limits for board members. They built in protections against mission drift. And they named Sam and Maya as future board members, but not leaders. They'd have voices, but not control. "This outlives us," Marlowe told the assembled board at their first official meeting. "This is bigger than us, and it has to stay that way." One autumn evening, 7 years after they'd first arrived at the lodge, Marlowe and Iris hosted a dinner. Sam and Maya came, Patricia, Rosa from the security company who'd become a friend, a few staff members from the foundation. They ate outside as the sun set over the mountains. The table was long, the food simple but abundant. Laughter echoed through the clearing. After dinner, Maya pulled out a small wrapped box. "This is for you," she said, handing it to Iris. Inside was a photo album, handmade, carefully assembled. The first page showed the lodge as it had been when they arrived, weathered, silent, waiting. The next pages showed its transformation. Gardens they'd planted, the porch they'd restored, the clearing they'd maintained. Then came photos of people. Faces of seniors they'd helped. Smiling, healthy, whole. The final page had a single photo, Marlowe and Iris standing on the porch, arms around each other, the mountains behind them. Underneath, in careful handwriting, proof that being written off isn't the end. It's just the beginning. Iris closed the album, tears streaming down her face. "This is beautiful." "You're beautiful," Maya said. "Both of you. What you've built, who you've become, it's changed more than just the people you've directly helped. It's changed how people think about aging, about worth, about what's possible." That night, after everyone left, Marlowe and Iris sat in the den. The fire crackled. The house was quiet. "Are you happy?" Marlowe asked. Iris smiled. "Happier than I ever imagined possible. You?" "Yeah, I am. Any regrets?" "One." "What?" "That we didn't do this sooner. That we wasted so many years letting other people define us." Iris nodded. "But maybe we needed those years. Maybe we needed to be broken down so we could rebuild ourselves properly." "Maybe." They sat in silence for a while. Then Iris said, "I got a letter today, from Natalie." Marlowe stiffened. What did she want? "To apologize. Actually apologize. No excuses, no justifications, just a real, honest apology." "Do you believe her?" "I don't know, but I think I want to find out." 3 months later, Natalie visited, alone. No husband, no agenda, just her. She sat on the porch where Derek had sat years before, holding a mug of coffee like a lifeline. "I've been in therapy," she said, "for 2 years now, working through a lot of things, and one thing I had to confront was how I treated you." Marlowe and Iris listened. "I was so focused on what I thought my life should be that I forgot about the people who gave me life. I took you for granted. Worse than that, I resented you for existing, for needing anything, for not being convenient." She paused, wiping her eyes. "And then I saw what you built, what you're doing for strangers, and I realized you never stopped being parents. You never stopped caring. You just stopped wasting your energy on people who didn't deserve it." "What do you want from us?" Iris asked. "Nothing. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect a relationship. I just wanted to say it, to own it. You deserved better. You deserved a daughter who loved you not for what you could give her, but for who you were." Marlowe felt something shift in his chest. Not forgiveness exactly, not yet, but something softer than the anger he'd carried. "Thank you for saying that," he said. Natalie nodded. "Can I ask one thing?" "What?" "Can I help? With the foundation? Not in any official capacity, but maybe volunteering? I want to understand what you're doing, why it matters to you." They let her volunteer. Once a week, she drove out and helped with administrative work, filed papers, answered phones. Nothing glamorous, but she showed up. Consistently. Without complaint. And slowly, carefully, something began to rebuild. It wasn't like it had been. It would never be like it had been. But it was something real. Something earned. 8 years after they'd arrived at the lodge, Marlowe woke up and couldn't breathe. He clutched his chest, gasping. Iris called 911. The nearest hospital was 40 minutes away. He survived. Barely. Massive heart attack. The doctors said he was lucky. "Lucky," he muttered from his hospital bed. "Don't feel lucky." Iris sat beside him, holding his hand. "You scared me." "Scared myself. We need to slow down, both of us. We're not done yet. I know, but we need to be smarter about it." They returned to the lodge a week later. Sam and Maya had stayed there while they were gone, taking care of everything. The place was spotless, meals prepared, wood chopped. "You don't have to do this," Marlowe said. "We want to," Sam replied. "You've taken care of everyone else. Let someone take care of you." They agreed to slow down, not stop, but be more deliberate. They stepped back from day-to-day operations, trusting Patricia and the staff to handle most decisions. But they still reviewed grant applications, still visited properties, still read every letter that came in. "This is our life now," Iris said. "We can't just stop." "I don't want to stop. I just want to make sure we're still here to see it grow." One afternoon, nearly 9 years after they'd first opened the vault, Marlowe descended the stone steps alone. He did this sometimes, not to count money or check inventory, but to remember. He walked through the vault, looking at what remained. They'd used over half of Thurman's wealth, over $150 million deployed in 9 years, and it had changed the world. Thousands of people helped. Hundreds of families prevented from exploiting their elderly members. A network of safe housing spanning 20 states. legal clinics, education programs, advocacy groups. All of it built from one man's lonely fortune and two people's decision to do something meaningful. Marlowe ran his hand along one of the steel shelves. "We did right by you," he whispered. "I hope you know that." Upstairs, Iris was on the porch with Maya, discussing plans for a new program targeting rural seniors. Sam was inside reviewing applications from graduate students wanting to join the fellowship. Natalie had called earlier to say she was organizing a fundraising drive at her church. Derek had sent an email about a contact he had who might be interested in partnering on a housing project. They were still imperfect, still carried scars, but they were trying, and sometimes trying is enough. That evening, the whole group gathered for dinner. Sam and Maya, Natalie, even Derek, who'd driven up for the first time in years, Patricia and Rosa, a few foundation staff. They squeezed around the long table, passed dishes, laughed, shared stories. At one point, Sam raised his glass. "To Marlowe and Iris, for showing us what it means to turn pain into purpose, for proving that being written off by some people just means being chosen by the ones who matter." "Hear, hear," everyone echoed. Marlowe looked around the table, at faces young and old, at family biological and chosen, at people who believed in something bigger than themselves. "Can I say something?" he asked. The table quieted. 9 years ago, we drove out here expecting nothing. We'd been dismissed by our family, pushed aside by the world. We felt small and useless and forgotten. He paused, gathering his thoughts. And then we found the vault, and we had a choice. We could take the money and disappear, live out our years in comfort, or we could do something that mattered. Iris took his hand. We chose to matter, and in doing so, we discovered something crucial. Wealth isn't what you have, it's what you do with it. Family isn't who shares your blood, it's who shows up. And worth isn't determined by others, it's determined by how you treat people when no one's watching. He looked at Derek and Natalie. "You hurt us, badly, and we're still working through that. But we're trying, because holding on to anger is its own kind of prison." Then he looked at Sam and Maya. "You gave us hope. You proved that damage doesn't have to pass from generation to generation, that people can break cycles and choose differently." Finally, he looked at everyone else. "And you've given us purpose. Every day, we wake up knowing we're part of something that helps people, that changes lives, that proves the world wrong when it says elderly people don't matter." His voice cracked. "So thank you, all of you, for seeing us, for believing in us, for letting us build something that will outlive us all." There wasn't a dry eye at the table. Later, as people began to leave, Derek approached Marlowe. "Dad, can we talk? Just us?" They walked away from the lodge into the forest. The sun had set, but the moon was bright enough to light their way. "I know I've apologized before," Derek said, "but I want to try again. Better this time." "Okay." "I was wrong about everything. I thought being a good son meant being successful, making money, not needing help. I thought you were weak because you struggled. I thought I was better because I didn't." He stopped walking, turned to face Marlowe. "But you're the strongest person I know. You took the worst thing, being rejected by your family, and turned it into the best thing. You helped thousands of people. You built a legacy that will last generations, and I spent all that time judging you when I should have been learning from you." Marlowe's throat tightened. "I appreciate that. I don't expect us to be close. I know I don't deserve that, but I want you to know I'm proud to be your son, even if I spent too long not acting like it." They stood in the moonlit forest. Marlowe thought about all the years of pain, all the anger and hurt, and then he thought about what he'd told Sam once. "We don't do this to prove anything to them. We do it to prove something to ourselves." He'd proven it, over and over. Maybe it was time to let some of the weight go. "I'm proud of you too," Marlowe said quietly, "for trying, for changing. That takes courage. Derek's face crumpled. He pulled his father into a hug. Marlowe stiffened at first, then relaxed into it. They stood there for a long moment, not healed completely, but healing. When they returned to the lodge, Iris was waiting on the porch. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," Marlowe said. "I think I am." The Foundation's 10th anniversary arrived quietly. No big celebration, just a simple ceremony at the lodge. They planted a tree, a sturdy pine that would grow for decades, maybe centuries. Patricia gave a speech. Sam and Maya spoke. Several people whose lives had been changed shared their stories. But the moment Marlowe remembered most came at the end. An elderly woman named Helen, 92 years old, stood with the help of a walker. "I want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Albright," she said, her voice shaking but clear. 3 years ago, my grandson tried to have me declared incompetent so he could take my house. I had nowhere to turn, no money for lawyers, no one who believed me. She paused, wiping her eyes. "Your foundation gave me legal help, helped me keep my home. But more than that, you reminded me I was still a person, still worthy of respect, still here." She looked directly at Marlowe and Iris. "You were written off. I was written off. But we're still here, still standing, still fighting. Thank you for showing the world that elderly people aren't finished. We're just getting started." The clearing erupted in applause. That night, Marlowe and Iris sat on the porch under a blanket of stars. The forest was alive with night sounds. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled. 10 years, Iris said. "Can you believe it?" "No. Feels like yesterday and a lifetime ago all at once." "Do you ever think about the old apartment, the old life?" "Sometimes, but it feels like a different person lived it." "Because it was. We're not who we were." Marlowe pulled her closer. "No, we're better." They sat in comfortable silence. Then Iris said, "I'm glad we stayed." "Me too." "I'm glad we found the vault." "Me too." "But most of all, I'm glad we found each other again. We were so busy surviving back then, we forgot to live." Marlowe kissed the top of her head. "We're living now." "Yeah, we are. Anyone can change the world if they're brave enough to believe they still matter, if they're willing to take pain and turn it into purpose, if they refuse to let others define their worth." Marlowe and Iris Albright were written off by the people who should have loved them most. They inherited a fortune they never expected, and instead of keeping it, they gave it away. Not because they were saints, not because they were perfect, but because they understood something fundamental. Wealth means nothing if it doesn't help someone else breathe a little easier. And family isn't about blood, it's about showing up. As the stars wheeled overhead and the forest breathed its ancient breath, two people who'd been told they didn't matter proved that sometimes the quietest voices change the world the loudest. The morning sun crept through the lodge windows, painting the wood floors in shades of gold. Marlowe woke slowly, Iris still asleep beside him. Her breathing was soft and steady. He watched her for a moment, grateful for every single day. They were 79 and 77 now. Their bodies moved slower. Their memories occasionally slipped, but their purpose remained sharp. Outside, the clearing had changed over the years. The garden Iris planted was thriving. The tree they'd planted for the anniversary had grown taller. The lodge itself showed signs of age but also of care. New paint where needed, repairs made with attention. It looked loved because it was. Marlowe rose carefully, made coffee, and carried 2 mugs to the bedroom. Iris stirred as he entered. "Morning," she murmured. "Morning, beautiful. Liar, I look like a wrinkled prune." "A beautiful wrinkled prune," she laughed, taking her mug. They sat together in bed, sipping coffee and watching the light change. "Patricia called yesterday," Iris said. "The foundation hit a milestone. 5,000 people helped." 5,000, Marlowe repeated. "Thurman would be amazed. I think he'd be proud. I think we should write him a letter, even if he'll never read it. Iris nodded. I'd like that. That afternoon, they sat at the desk in the den and wrote together. Dear Thurman, we never knew you well in life, but we've come to know you through what you left behind. Not the money, though that's been transformative, but the hope, the belief that people matter, the conviction that wealth should serve purpose, not pride. 10 years ago, you gave us a gift, not just property or assets, but a second chance. You saw something in us that even we couldn't see. You believed we'd do the right thing when given the opportunity. We hope we've proven you right. We've helped 5,000 people now, 5,000 seniors who were being exploited, abandoned, or forgotten. We've prevented millions of dollars in abuse. We've created homes where people feel safe. We've built a foundation that will outlive us both. But more than that, we've lived, really lived. For the first time in years, we woke up with purpose. We went to bed knowing we'd made a difference. You died alone. And that breaks our hearts. But your legacy isn't loneliness. It's love. It's every person who has a home because of you, every senior who got legal help because of you, every family that chose kindness instead of greed because they saw what's possible. You're not forgotten. You never will be. Thank you for seeing us when no one else did. With gratitude and love, Marlowe and Iris. They placed the letter in an envelope and put it in the vault next to Thurman's original inventory ledger. A conversation across time between people who understood what it meant to be dismissed and chose to matter anyway. The foundation continued to grow. By year 12, they'd expanded to 30 states. Sam took on more leadership as Marlowe and Iris stepped further back. Maya developed a revolutionary program connecting isolated seniors with volunteers for regular check-ins. Derek and Natalie remained involved, though on the periphery. They'd never be central to Marlowe and Iris's life again, but they'd earned a place at the edges. Forgiveness, Marlowe learned, wasn't about forgetting. It was about choosing not to let the past poison the present. One evening, as winter settled over the Montana mountains, Marlowe felt tired in a way that worried him. Not just physically tired, soul tired. I think I'm ready, he told Iris. Ready for what? To rest, really rest. She looked at him for a long moment. Are you saying goodbye? Not yet, but someday, and I want to make sure everything's in place. They spent the next months tying up loose ends, updating their wills, ensuring the foundation was secure, writing letters to people who'd mattered. Sam and Maya, Patricia, Rosa, even Derek and Natalie. They weren't morbid about it, just practical. They'd learned that life could change in an instant. On a warm spring day, 15 years after they'd first arrived at the lodge, Marlowe and Iris invited everyone to gather one more time. The clearing was full. Foundation staff, board members, people they'd helped who'd become friends, family, biological and chosen. Marlowe stood on the porch, Iris beside him. We asked you here today not for a goodbye, but for a celebration, he said. 15 years ago, we were two people the world had written off. We were old. We were struggling. We were invisible. He paused, looking out at the assembled faces. And then we were given a gift, a chance, a choice. We could have taken the easy path, kept the wealth for ourselves, lived quietly and comfortably. But that's not what Thurman wanted, and it's not what we wanted, Iris continued. We wanted to matter, and the only way to do that was to help others matter too. So we built something, together, all of us, something bigger than money or property or even family. We built proof that it's never too late to become who you're meant to be. Marlowe's voice grew stronger. We're not done yet. We'll keep going as long as we're able, but whenever our time comes, we want you to know. This was the greatest honor of our lives. Helping you, learning from you, building alongside you. He looked at Sam. You'll carry this forward, you and Maya and everyone who believes in the mission, and you'll make it even better than we did. Sam wiped his eyes but nodded. We were written off, Marlowe said, "and we turned it into the best thing that ever happened to us. Because being dismissed by people who don't see your value means you're free to find the ones who do." The clearing erupted in applause. People stood, some cried, some laughed, but everyone understood. This wasn't an ending. It was a continuation of something that would outlast them all. That night, after everyone left, Marlowe and Iris walked to the vault one final time. They descended the stone steps slowly, holding hands. The vault was emptier now. Most of the wealth had been deployed, but what remained was still substantial, enough to keep the foundation running for decades. "We did it," Iris whispered. "Yeah, we did." They stood in the quiet space where their transformation had begun, where they'd discovered they were worth more than anyone had told them. "I love you," Marlowe said. "I love you too." They climbed back up the stairs and sealed the vault. It would be opened again someday by people who needed what was inside, but for now it could rest. Marlowe and Iris lived another 5 years after that gathering. Good years, full years. They watched Sam and Maya have children. They saw the foundation expand to all 50 states. They read letters from people whose lives had been changed. When Marlowe finally passed, peacefully in his sleep at 84, the foundation held a memorial that lasted 3 days. Thousands of people came to pay respects, not because he was rich, not because he was famous, but because he'd seen them when no one else did. Iris lived another 2 years, tending the garden, reading letters, visiting the vault sometimes just to remember. When her time came, she was surrounded by people who loved her. Sam held one hand, Maya held the other. Her last words were, "We mattered, we really mattered." And she was right. The Thurman Albright Foundation continues today. It's helped over 50,000 people. It's prevented hundreds of millions of dollars in elder abuse. It's created thousands of safe homes. It's changed laws. It's shifted how society views aging. But more than statistics and numbers, it's proven something essential. Being written off isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a better one. If you choose it. If you believe it. If you're brave enough to stand up and say, "I still matter. And I'm going to prove it." Marlowe and Iris Albright were dismissed by their family, mocked for inheriting a remote lodge, and left to disappear into obscurity. Instead, they discovered a fortune and turned it into a movement. They didn't just change their own lives, they changed thousands. And in doing so, they reminded the world that elderly people aren't finished. They're not burdens, they're not invisible, they're powerful, they're purposeful, they're still here, still fighting, still mattering. And sometimes the people society forgets are the ones who change it the most. Because for Marlowe and Iris and everyone who followed their example, being written off wasn't an ending. It was freedom. Freedom to become exactly who they were always meant to be. The end. Up next, 2 more powerful stories waiting for you. Click to keep discovering truth, resilience, and the quiet heroes who prove the world wrong. And don't forget to hit subscribe if you believe it's never too late to rewrite your story.